Good evening, beautiful people of Lake Orion. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Ian Witherspoon, and I am between Taorminas. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, do we got a program for you tonight, huh? What do you think?
Interesting.
Interesting?
Yeah.
Could be fireworks, perhaps?
I'm nervous.
Stay tuned. Why?
Why? You don't want to know.
Did you bring bail money?
No, I didn't bring bail money.
Oh. Did you bring bail money for him?
No, but I'm burning for
All
Quiet, Swift!
All right. Easy. Save the energy. Save the energy.
Save the energy, genius.
All right, and let's try to spice it up a little bit, all right?
I'm a role
A
model for
little more
children.
masculine, a little less Taylor Swift. All right, Tigers.
Yeah,
They're still what? One of the best teams in the league.
they have a
Contending
chance
for the best,
to be the best
record
team
in the AL.
American League.
Go on.
But
What
I
else?
still think one wise man told me a couple years ago that the Detroit Tigers are bound for failure.
A couple of years ago?
Remember 2006 where the Minnesota, actually it was 07?
09.
09 when the Minnesota Twins came from behind
Yeah.
to take the Central
Sure.
from the Tigers. I think I have a feeling it's going to happen like that this year because you got to look at it here. Verlander's struggling. You know, the Tigers have had to. Miguel Cabrera's hurt. I mean, this team here is right now flirting with disaster right now. And Phil Koch is back in the bullpen, so that's not a good thing.
Flirting with disaster.
Yep.
Flirting with disaster.
Flirting with disaster. Yep.
Okay, they just shut out the Red Sox at Fenway Park yesterday. You realize that, right? Won the series against Cleveland before that. Remember that? Were you there? Did you watch?
No.
Cleveland, the Tribe, who you hope makes the playoffs?
Cleveland will make the playoffs. Besides this, before this gets out of control,
It
we've
could
got
go that way quick.
the Tigers took 2 out of 3 with Cleveland.
Who
And,
had to win? They had to win that
you know,
series.
and if you look at the series with Boston, this is a big series for both teams. This is for domination of the American League as a whole, not just the AL Central we're talking about. If I'm the Tigers, I would be focusing on winning the American League as a whole, not the AL Central. The AL Central, you know, the Tigers pretty much have right now at the moment.
Well,
I
you
would
want
say
home
that-
field, you know?
Right, and you want home field throughout the playoffs.
Yep.
You know, so and obviously it means a lot to the fans.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the Tigers are going to work hard to get that home field for the fans. And obviously, you know, Miguel Cabrera coming back is going to help the Tigers. He's still got an abdominal injury. Abdominal, yeah. I mean, like he's not going to be 100%. Are you sure he's going to be healthy for the playoff run?
What's the Tigers' record without Miguel?
9-2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
That's
And they just beat the team that has the best record in the American League. They shut them out without Miguel Cabrera in their gym, in their field. That's impressive.
And who's on the mound tonight?
Max Scherzer. Scherzer's on fire.
Max Scherzer, his record, can't remember, 19-1 perhaps? Like the odds of taking the series here, okay?
Well, isn't Boston supposed to send Buchholz in this series?
Maybe. Who is it tonight? Lester?
I think it's Lester.
Lester
yes.
and Scherzer?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take Scherzer.
You know, Boston is just as hated as New York. I think that, you know, when I was watching the game yesterday, it brought back memories of why I don't like Boston as much as I don't like New York.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
You should only have room for one team in your heart.
Well, you got to look at the wild card, you know.
No, you don't, because you don't have to worry
don't.
about it. Let's look at something we can all agree on. How about this? Jose Iglesias.
Unbelievable. He is a beast. He is unbelievable. Just the way that he's playing. I'm impressed with him. Johnny who again?
Can Iglesias touch your cold, dead heart, or do you hate him too?
If he can hit,
If he can hit.
He can hit.
He's batting about 315. He's doing all right.
Well, but most of those numbers before he got him was in Boston because
Right.
Iglesias didn't play a lot when he was in Boston.
About 70 games, a little bit under, yeah.
And then you got to look at this guy's a wizard defensively.
Yes.
I understand that. You
Okay.
know, he's done magnificent work. You know what I mean?
He's
He's
amazing.
shortstop. You know what I mean? He can play third base for a time. You know, but also, you know, you got to look at the situation with the infields. Are you sure that Infante can keep up? Are you sure that the left field situation can keep up? Andy Dirks
Has
proven,
been better
Andy Dirks-
lately.
Andy Dirks has proven to me Brandon Inge 2.0. He will be. You just watch. At the end of the year, Andy Dirks will be Brandon Inge 2.0.
All right, define
Okay.
Brandon
Define
Inge.
that.
What does that mean? Is that batting average? Is that we want to run him out of town? What is that?
You want to run him out of town.
Who does? The majority of fans?
Yeah, the majority of fans
Okay.
like to run Andy Dirks.
You want to
Why?
bet on
I
this?
like Andy Dirks' mullet look.
I like
think
him.
it's a great mullet look.
Yeah.
I like his mullet look.
You want to bet on this?
I'm already in enough bets.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in enough of those.
Yeah, pretty soon the loan sharks are going to be knocking at your door.
Who's going to knock?
The loan sharks collect on your payments because you are not good at betting.
How am I not good at betting?
Well, when you lose every bet, that would mean you're not good.
How do I name me any bet that I've lost?
Well, you're about to lose one with a guy sitting in the audience about Cleveland making the playoffs.
Yeah, pretty much.
That one you have no hope for. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll get back to you on the others, but you're a bad bettor, and that's why I want to bet you.
We can be brief on the wild card, I guess. We can talk about Tampa Bay. Who do you think is going to make the wild card? Who do you think will challenge the Tigers?
Tampa
No
Bay
one.
and Cleveland will make the wild card.
Oakland and Tampa.
You think Oakland and Tampa? You think
Tampa
Oakland's a
and
dangerous team? Oakland beat the Tigers 3 out of 4.
Tampa and Cleveland. Cleveland's going to somehow make the wild card because they got the 4th easiest schedule in the major leagues.
What about New York?
They won't make playoffs.
No.
No.
Not happening.
No, you don't think New York will?
New York will not make the playoffs because you don't know when steroids is going to keep up. You don't know when Alfonso Soriano, he's going to go cold. And then they're pitching. How will New York make the playoffs if their pitching is not good? You know, Phil Hughes is not very good. CC Sabathia is not the same pitcher. I mean, their best pitcher's Ian Nova of all people. And he's
Ivan.
decent, Ivan Nova.
Isn't it Kuroda, their best pitcher?
Cronin's not very good.
Yeah, but isn't his ERA under 3?
Goodness gracious.
We don't need to talk New York
No.
because they're a non-factor. What team scares you though in the playoffs when the Tigers get there?
Texas.
Oakland.
2 West teams, huh?
Texas. Because are you sure the Tigers can match up with the Rangers? Are you
Yes.
sure that they can, you know, especially in that Texas heat where you got to deal with potentially Nelson Cruz coming back. You got to deal with Alex Rios. You got to deal with Ian Kinsler. You got to deal with Adrian Beltre. You got Texas and of course the pitcher. Darvish, I think besides him and Scherzer, is the second best pitcher in the American League right now.
I'll be
Yu
short.
Darvish is going
I'll
to
be
be
short
fine.
and sweet. We saw the series with the Oakland and the Tigers. There's not much to explain there. That's why Oakland scares me. I'll be short and sweet.
Do you want to make another bet?
Are you sure Coco Chris scares you?
Oakland scares me. They won 3 out of 4 with Detroit at Comerica.
I know their
That's
fans
impressive.
dance like this.
Can we end the segment right here?
Verlander is going to be good in the playoffs.
Verlander,
Mark it down.
I'm a little worried.
Don't be worried, you'll be fine.
I'm a little worried.
All right, when we come back after the break, we're going to have a special guest talk a little Orion Oxford football right here on Between Taorminas.
Orion Township Community Programs invites you to Friendship Park to celebrate Barn Days, Saturday, September 7th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enjoy games, inflatables, a petting farm, pony rides, food, and fun for the whole family. Take a step back in time during a hayride where you just might get caught up in a skirmish between Civil War soldiers. The cost is $5 per carload and benefits the township's programs and events. Mark the date down in your calendar. Barn Days, September 7th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Friendship Park. For more information, call 248-391-0304, extension 305, or visit oriontownship.org.
Welcome back to Between Taorminas, where we are joined by special guest, Head Athletic Director, Mr. Bill Reese.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good, very good.
Pretty good now that we got that trophy in town again.
Yeah, I'm glad it's staying where it belongs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look at that.
Bit of an interesting game. Tied 14-14 Friday night. Weather delay, of course. But then Orion came back 35-30. Take us through it, Sam.
Well, the game was actually very crazy, actually. It was very tense. It was very, I thought the defense had to make some stops when they had to do that. And then they had to overcome an onside kick and then found a way to win, Offense couldn't be stopped.
That's got to be a good sign early on, huh?
It is a good sign early on. Defense is still an alarming
Right.
concern right now. Not being mean because you're putting a new crew after what happened state semifinals. But, I didn't think this defense did a good job containing Wallington nor line, especially. But Wallington had made some crazy plays, you know what I mean? But I was just very surprised that they could not stop Wallington nor line. But they made enough, found a way to win that game in the long haul.
I think that the game time possession was in Oxford's favor. If you look the first half, 17 minutes of offense for Oxford to only 6 minutes for Lake Orion. I was very surprised that the game was tied at 14-14. I felt that, especially with the time possession Oxford had. Then the second day,
Part two.
Obviously, you have an extra day to learn from. I think it benefited Lake Orion because Oxford ran a little bit of veer offense too, along with the traditional power football, so that they ended up running so it gave Coach Dave Tooley a chance to see what happened, what kinks they could fix, and then also go into and play better. And I felt the defense played a little bit better in the second day, and I think the key thing, there was two key plays. The first one was the Brad Chisholm stop on the 7-yard line, which forced Oxford to score a field goal, because that ultimately ended up resulting in the 90-yard kickoff return for the touchdown. And then the defense made a very key stop as well, led Lake Orion to get the ball and lead 28-17. No way was the game over yet, but Lake Orion ended up making enough stops when they had to, and that's why they won the game. I think the better team won the game.
I agree, and quite frankly, I thought the efficiency of our offense was what was really the game changer. If you look at that, we didn't have the ball but twice in the first half, and we scored on both those opportunities. The first was a 3-and-out, but that's to be said at a brand new squad out there, 7 new players starting their first game on offense and 7 on defense, so we had a lot of young people out there. And I really thought that our coaches and players did a great job with the lightning delay, going back, checking out the film. I watched them 8 o'clock in the morning, going over the film, making sure they didn't make the same mistakes twice, and they made the big stops when they needed to, and of course that resulted in the victory.
What was a little surprising was when Oxford brought in the veer offense, because a lot of people know, Rochester Adams runs that offense, but it was like kind of a shock. I thought that this defense has had problems with option teams, in their last few years. I know Wall Lake Central and then Stony Creek, not much last year, but, I was a little concerned coming into that, especially with a mobile quarterback that they have in Wallington. It really was an alarming rate that that they haven't seen that much veer option before, you know what I mean? And Oxford brought that into that game.
I think that this is going to be a good experience for Lake Orion, especially because they're going to have to see veer option teams later in the year. Obviously, Stony Creek runs the triple option. Clarkston will run a little bit of veer. I think that this experience with Oxford will be beneficial to the Dragons, because if you look at how if the defense is out there on the field, obviously you don't want them out there for long periods of time, but if you have the defense on there, it's going to make them that much better, and they're going to have a lot more game experience.
Well, I agree, but I don't think you're going to see many better elusive quarterbacks than Wellington.
Correct.
He was very slick and elusive, and I got to tell you that the way he scrambled back and forth with a young crew out there for their first game, they're a little bit tired on that defensive front. I don't necessarily think you'll see that as time goes on, because the kids will get more and more experienced and react a little differently than that. They won't be chasing blindly as they did this time.
Well, we all know, I think, in Lake Orion and Oxford, we're all happy to have this rivalry back. The game is back after some years being off. But from a district or like a business perspective, how important is this rivalry game?
Well, I've been here a long time. This is my 41st year there, and I remember when the Oxford-Lake Orion rivalry was bigger than the Clarkson-Lake Orion rivalry, and it's starting to build that way again. We need to develop a mutual respect for one another, and I think for a while there in that 20 years that we weren't playing, there wasn't much respect, and that's the way the series started off, and quite frankly, there were some things that went on before the game takes place that were very disturbing to me, but Mike Watson has worked really hard over at Oxford along with Todd Dunkley and of course our administrative staff to make sure we don't have those kinds, and this particular game went off without any interruptions, which I think was great, and that's a good sign for things to come.
Well, besides this weather storm, you know what I mean, besides the storm, but you can't control Mother Nature.
Well, next year it'll be in Lake Orion where living is a vacation, so we won't have that.
Yeah, I hope so.
75 and sunny.
I
next year.
wonder two things, because you look at Oxford has an enrollment hike or an enrollment spike. Lake Orion is at 2,100 kids. You wonder if Lake Orion and Oxford. Two questions: will Lake Orion and Oxford meet in the playoffs? Keith Dunlap's talking about that possibly happening. And number two, will Lake Orion and Oxford be in the same division next year?
Well, I'm not sure about the division. That's done at the end of a realignment year, and I think this is a realignment year, and that's based on record and the sizes of squads. And you're right that the enrollment increase over at Oxford may affect that. Personally, I'd like to see that, because I think playing at the very first game of the year is really tough for both communities to get out there. You're right at the Labor Day holiday. I'm sure the attendance was down. The very first game we had 4 years ago, I had 11,000 people at that game.
Right.
And then in the recent history here at Lake Orion, we had a little bit under 4,000 people last time. 4,000 people is a great gate, but obviously it's kind of toned down a little bit here. So, and now that we've kind of resumed a little bit of dominance, and I'm not bragging or boasting, but you can look at the trophy that the Lake Orion has held it most of the times. I think that a lot of the questions are being answered, that Lake Orion is a powerful program.
You got to look at the. There is a possibility that these two teams could meet, but it depends on. I think Orion will get to the playoffs, but Oxford's schedule is very brutal. They got to play Oak Park. They got to play Rochester Adams. Those are both road games. They got Southfield at home, and then you got. I mean, like that's murder's row right there with that slate. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Oxford, they can make it, but also you got to also worry about the crossover game if whoever Oxford plays, because they know they can't play Orion, and it's possible that they could play Stony Creek, and if they do get Stony Creek, I think they're going to have some problems with the Cougars' triple option.
I think that the rivalry, it's good to have the rivalry. I agree with you, Mr. Reese, as long as it's played under class and professionalism from both sides, from the coaches, from players, from fans alike. It's only as good as the coaches and players and the fans can bring it. That's what makes the beauty of the rivalry. Obviously, it's okay to say, we're going to beat Ella or beat Oxford, you know what I'm saying, but not the other,
Well, I'm surprised about there's not a lot of Twitter trash.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
I agree. The other thing, if you really look at both, if you're talking about a playoff meeting or a crossover, I just don't see Oxford with Stony Creek and
Romeo,
Oak Park and
Getting a
Harrison.
low
I mean, you're talking about winning 6 games is going to be
It'll be
difficult
tough.
for
It's
them.
going to be difficult for
And
them.
I don't think you're going to get in the big division with a 5-4 record. So if you don't have a 5-4 record, you've got no
Well, they
chance
could
of
get
playing.
in with enough playoff points, so who knows?
Yeah.
All right, real quick before we wrap this segment up, moving forward, one thing we want to see Lake Orion improve on.
Defense.
Defense? Any
Defense.
specifics?
Well, it got to be much better. It got to be much better, I think, because
Just
30
more-
points is too much.
Okay.
30 points.
First
is too
game
much.
jitters might be part of that, but
I
what do
would
you got?
say, I would also say defense, because I would say mostly we're not going to see a team like Oxford for the rest of the season. I don't know what will happen against Troy Athens. We'll discuss that next. But I think that I think that we need to improve on when we play teams. We prepare for we expect the unexpected. And Oxford ran a veer option and a little bit along with their traditional power football. I didn't think we were ready for it, but I think we adjusted, and I think that played well. I think that we need to improve defensively. I say defense is key to championships.
Yeah, I'd echo that sentiment. I think defense was the obvious downfall, but I've got tremendous confidence in Dave Tooley that he'll have that
one of the best in the
running.
business.
And one of the good things about young players that become veteran players as the season goes on, so we'll see that happen, I'm sure.
I agree. It's a learning process for the younger kids.
Well, it's a marathon, right? Not a sprint. All right, we come back. Well, we'll be back in just a bit here on Between Taorminas.
Hey, this is Mickey York from Fox Sports Detroit. When I want to get the inside scoop on local sports, I watch Between Taorminas or Fox Sports Detroit.
Enjoy farm fresh produce, kettle corn, baked goods, and more at the Lake Orion Farmers Market, held every Wednesday from 2 to 7 p.m. through September 11th. Each week, more than a dozen vendors offer locally grown goods, with more variety each week as new crops are harvested. The Farmers Market is located next to the Orion Arts Center and near Children's Park in downtown Lake Orion. Support the local economy and put fresh produce on your table. Visit the Lake Orion Farmers Market. For more information, go to downtownlakeorion.org.
Welcome back to Between Taorminas here on Orion Neighborhood Television. And boys, got a game this Friday against Troy Athens. Last year was a bit of a barn burner, 44-7.
No, 68-20.
Oh, wait, what? Who
You're
said
think-
44-7?
That what you talking about last week?
With
You're
Troy?
talking about Troy Athens
Oh.
the last game.
Wait, what was the score last year?
68-20.
So
It won't even be close.
basically,
I'll tell you what.
my sarcasm was not received well. It was not close. This year, from what you know about Troy Athens, is it going to be closer or what?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Josh Hapner, their coach, actually hyped Troy Athens to be very good. They got a transfer, and Alex Muscat, who transferred from Troy, who actually shockingly won a quarterback battle with Jake Nelson, who was Jake Nelson was a dual threat quarterback as well, but also their main stud is Lucas Becerra. Their tight end is going to Western Michigan. He stays the real deal, but he also plays defensive line as end as well. Problem is with Troy Athens, they don't have a lot of depth. And last year, Troy Athens was a disappointing 2-7 after making the playoffs in 2011, and they just went in the first week of the year this year and just got whooped, 47-7 by Warren Mott. The last 2 years, the Red Hawks have played the Marauders.
Marauders, yeah.
They got crushed 88-13. That's not pretty. That's not a pretty sight right there. And Orion putting up 35 points. That could get ugly real quick.
Well, I think one thing Troy Athens does is they run the spread. They run a much more, with Oxford they ran power, they ran veer. With Troy Athens, they run more like a spread, more familiar with what Lake Orion is used to. I think that, I think that Troy Athens, and if you looked at the game last week with Warren Mott, their coach said after the game that was not the Troy Athens team he expected to see. I think that Troy Athens kind of was trying to adjust, with a new team, new year, obviously new quarterback. I think that Troy Athens has the potential to be a pretty decent team, but you cannot live off potential. You've got to get the job done. I do think that their coaches know. I think Bob Dowd knows that, and I think that Troy Athens is going to work hard to try to get back where they're at. The thing is that you can afford to lose games to like Warren Mott, Lake Orion, and Clarkson, but you got to beat the teams like Rochester and Troy and Stony Creek. I don't know if they can do that this year, and I think that Troy Athens is a team that can, their depth scares me, and I think it's almost unacceptable for Troy Athens being the fourth largest school in Oakland County to have as many.
I thought it was Troy.
No, it was Troy Athens because Troy's the second highest. But it's unexcusable in a sense. But I just think that the talent, I think Lake Orion's a lot more talented in the running game. I don't know if Athens will play better than they did last week, but this is Lake Orion.
Yeah, I think defensively, Lake Orion will be a much better matchup this time. They're playing against the spread office every day in practice, so I think they'll be much better prepared. We'll see a little different defensive stance than we saw maybe in the Oxford game. But for me, in watching the game, I've always enjoyed watching Athens. They always have that one gifted player. You talk about Becerra, and we've had Conley before, and we had Doozy, who's at Iowa.
Jake Doozy.
Yeah, that'd be something I enjoy watching. I can zoom in on that player and find out what kind of quality player is, and kind of watch him as he plays in college. That's an interesting thing for me.
Got to look at the matchup last year. Okay, Zach Arnold had 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. Why? And he's back. They're moving the receiver. That's not a good matchup for Troy Athens, because last week Warren Mott had a very good running back. He rushed for 142 yards and had 3 touchdowns. But also what didn't help Troy Athens that game was their quarterbacks threw 4 interceptions. 2 of them by Muscat, and 2 of them were taken back for touchdowns. And they gave a kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, like,
This the Lions or
This is-
Athens? What are we talking about?
this isn't the Lions. So
Oh.
The Lions are not going to be good this year. You just don't watch that. And then, but I just think this has got the recipe for doom.
Okay, so you don't sound too scared, but is there anything that scares you about Athens, this matchup at all?
I think that I would say this game, especially after a big win against Oxford, there's always that fear of letdown. And Troy Athens is looking to really, really make a statement. And what better than to make a statement against a team that's pretty much the class of the OAA Red. Sorry, Clarkson, you're just not the class of the OAA Red. I'm just saying, then make a statement and either play well or even beat Lake Orion. And I think that those are things that do worry me. Do I think it'll happen? I don't think it is, because I just think Lake Orion's too deep. I think that Lake Orion's got more athletes. I think that Lake Orion's I cannot see Athens with as many players that go 2 ways, stopping a Lake Orion offense that is as dynamic as the one we're seeing right now.
I agree, as long as there's no letdown. And I have to reflect back at the Clarkston loss to Adams. I would never have predicted that, certainly by the score. So it would have to take a Lake Orion team to come in and lay an egg, be flat. I just don't see Coach Bell or his staff allowing that to happen. And therefore, I think it's going to be a rout. I mean, there's a reason that they're predicted to only win 1 game this year and finish in 6th, I think, in the OAA. Because they just don't have the depth. And they have 40 players on the team. Sooner or later, they're going to wear down with our 90 players. We could shuffle in and out and spell some people. So I'm not looking for anything other than a great game out of the Dragons.
This is going to get ugly. This may be worse than 68-20. I'm going to say this is the week Orion gets everybody in. This is the week, and I think Orion is going to break their own team record. And they scored 68 last year. They're going to put up 70. It's going to be 70-20 Dragons. It will not be close.
I think that Troy Athens is going to make a game out of it. They're going to try. I think what we're going to see this year, with the exception of Clarkston, not a lot of teams are deep. And we've noticed that in the red. If you look at Troy, you look at Stony Creek. Stony Creek's going to be a pretty good team this year. They just don't have the depth. Troy, they, second largest enrollment. Their teams have not been deep. They're very well coached, I might add. Pontiac, with everything going on there. West Bloomfield, whom I think, West Bloomfield's supposed to have some
They're in
pretty
trouble
good teams.
against
But I just think that, we're going to see teams throughout this, and Troy Athens is no different, that just don't have a lot of depth, that we're going to see that we're going to experience.
All right, real quick, got about a minute left. When there's kind of a blowout or a not close game, you can kind of focus on one player, one position. Who's that for the Dragons this week? Who are you looking forward to see?
Arnold.
Okay.
I think he's going to go nuts again on the Red Hawks.
What do you got? You got anybody at your
I
eye?
don't. I'd rather prefer the whole team. I'd love to see everybody get in. I think
Right.
that's one thing when you enjoy when it's a blowout is you want to see the whole team get in.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Chris Lee. He really stepped up big, I thought, at Oxford. I think he's gained a lot of confidence. I think you'll see him again this week.
Also, watch out for
Great.
Matt Krause. I think he's going to have a big game.
He's a
this
sleeper.
week.
Yeah.
He's gonna
All
have a
right.
big game.
Cool. Well, let's hope it goes all according to plan then. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and thank you to our guest, Mr. Bill Reese. See you next week right here between Taorminas.